Hi, and once again, we are Fun This Time podcast, and today we have Keith with us, and he just going to introduce himself, and he just going to tell us everything that he's doing in his own entrepreneurial journal. So, welcome.
Thank you, Niurka. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast. And I'm Keith McKeever. And I guess a little bit about myself. I grew up in a small Midwestern town, small high school, the good old, uh, you know, country life, small town life. And after high school, I got my associate's degree in law enforcement. Decided I didn't really want to be a civilian cop, wasn't quite ready for that life. So I ended up in the Air Force, became a cop there after a few years, a couple deployments and couple TDYs, and meeting a lot of great people, I found myself back in the civilian world, kind of, I guess you could say, kind of wondering what's next in life. What's the next steps, and after about a month, I ended up selling furniture, and I worked for a company, small group of people, made the transition really smooth. Working with us, such a small group of people, you kind of had that same feeling you have in the military, same people you see every day, you get to know each other a lot deeper, and that really helped through the transition. And furniture sales was not really my thing. I must admit. I didn't really necessarily like working for somebody else. I liked working with people. I liked being there with people. I didn't really like moving the furniture around and unloading the trucks. That honestly wasn't all that much fun. And it was 70 something hours a week. And after about a year of that, my youngest was born premature. And the way the company operated, they want you to move up into a management position, move away. And we just knew that, with a premature child, you don't know what kind of issues you're going to have. So we decided as a family, we're not going to continue that company, trying to find something else. But what is that? What does it look like? Like I said, I liked sales. I liked working with people, but I didn't really like the 70 hours, for somebody else. So my mother's in real estate. She had been in realtor for about 25 years at that point, and she's like, "Well, join me." And I was like, "Nah, that's a big leap of faith to just jump into business and start something." So I said, "You know what? Why not? If I'm going to be successful, if I'm going to have a shot, why not go into business with your mother, right?" There's nobody else that's going to protect you and give you all the information and the resources and guide you on that path like your own mother. Um, and that's the only reason I got into real estate. That's really kind of where that entrepreneurial journey began. And it's a little different. I mean, it's not starting a business from the ground up. Um, she didn't dump sales in my lap. I mean, I've had to work for them, but some of the processes, procedures, and stuff like that was already kind of set. So it was a little different than having to start from scratch. So been doing that for 8 years, and beyond that, I also run the Battle Buddy podcast. Just trying to provide some value back to veterans. When we talk about entrepreneurial stuff too, just like you do, Niurka. But we go into a variety of other topics that are relevant to military and veterans. So it's been kind of my journey up to where I'm at today.
And, and that's so great, right? And sure, you know, there's a lot of missing pages in all the stories
Yeah,
because being a
that there
realtor
is. There's a
is
lot of
not
ups
a
and downs.
easy. There's a lot of yeah, it's definitely not an easy journey, and starting your podcast from the beginning is a discovery process because there's really not a lot of information out there. These people tell you, okay, get this, get there, and just putting yourself out there in the first place, um, to share your message and to help others share the message. Um, yeah. So yeah. So what are some of the things and what are the resources that you have found that help you in your own journey?
Well, I'd say in the beginning of my career, my mother was the biggest resource I could have ever possibly had, because 25 years in the industry, you definitely know what you're doing at that point. So I had a sounding board that would answer my phone call, any hour of the day almost, and she'd offer great advice, whatever that would be. She had the different resources and stuff figured out, because I can't imagine getting in this business with really, starting it from the ground up. How do you keep track of client information? How do you do this? How do you manage your social media pages? Like, it's mind blowing the amount of things that you have to do in business that you don't think about when you get into business, especially real estate, because as you get into the industry and you sell homes, right? You help people buy homes, you help people sell homes, but you don't think about all those things that you have to do behind the scenes, all the paperwork, the filing, the replying to emails, the replying to phone calls, and then when somebody calls, you got to figure out, you know, how are they qualified? What's the best, what loan type are they going with? So what kind of homes do you have to find for them? But then you've got all the social media stuff, right? You got to figure out how to use YouTube and Pinterest and Facebook and Instagram, and TikTok. I mean, there's probably a dozen, different social media platforms you could use in varying sizes of how many users they've got now. But you got to figure all that out. You got to leverage it. You got to go attract clients. And that's the hard part. That's the hours of work of trying to figure those things out that everybody's got to go through, just, to some degree. And that is a challenge. And it's a bigger challenge for some. I grew up around social media. I mean, I had AOL Instant Messenger as a kid, so I'm pretty good with technology. My mother, not so much. So trying to figure out that balance of who's going to do what, how we're going to do it, what does it look like, that's a challenge. And I think it's a challenge that probably resonates with everybody that goes into business, if it's a brick and mortar in your sales or your service industry too. Like, that's tough. You got to figure that out. That takes hours. It's not like you can just set something and forget it. It's a lot. It's a huge learning curve, figuring out how to use those things and use them for your business. Because I know you've got your umbrellas and you've got real estate, you got other things going on. I'm sure, you look at your social media use a little different, maybe by company, what you're going to do and how you do it. So there's challenges there that you got to overcome. But I think when I look at my podcast, I think I've figured some of those things out over the years for real estate. You got to figure some of those things out, and it makes that process, I guess, a little bit smoother.
Well, I don't. Everything you say resonated with me, and I tell you, first, real estate is more than just selling homes. Is actually helping others buy a dream.
It's the biggest purchase of your life in most cases. It is not to be taken lightly.
It's the dream house. It's yes, and the dream ownership that is very hard for some people to achieve. And it's a process because you have to match them with the right house. How many houses you had to show to find the perfect home, and there you have to stay there. You have to be happy with the purchase because you have to stay there
Yeah,
for
it's not like you can take
several
it back to the store.
years.
Yeah, it's not like you can take it back to the store
And then
next
we
week.
yes, and so it's definitely a very important job that you do, especially when you do it with dedication. There's a lot of real estate agents. There's not a lot of real estate professional. So anything that you do, it depends how um, you approach it. There's a lot of regulations. There's um, a lot of different aspects that come into play, but it's how you approach it, and you dealing with people, you dealing with the dreams, and really complicated. I'm sure you know. Um, so thank you for doing what you do. And also the other thing is working with a partner is never easy. Working with your mother is a win, but I'm sure it's very difficult because you can't really say no, right?
It's got some
So
challenges.
how do you manage the,
How do I manage it?
mhm,
Well,
yes.
our relationship has been different, I would say, from the moment I got into business, because you think about family holidays. You know, you go over to your mother's house. You know, it's a fun family event, and the first thing I really noticed was I'd go over for Thanksgiving, Christmas, whatever, and inevitably at some point in time, I would ask or she would ask and say, "Hey, what happened? You know, whatever happened to such and such deal, or whatever happened to these clients? Did they buy? You know, whatever happened to that problem you had on this, or that issue that came up with the septic system there?" You know, you'd have one or two of those questions, and it almost always comes back to work. And my mother and I are super close, which is great, because my father died when I was 16, and we've my mother and I have always been close, but so that really helps to have a great relationship, period. So we can kind of turn that off sometimes, but it does sneak in eventually in the conversation. It's going to happen at some point in time. Now it's been 8 years. It's not as big of a deal. I mean, I try not to resist it, because I got a question or she's got a question, you want an answer. So, just roll with it. It is what it is. But some of the challenges are definitely generational, because she's towards the end of her career, closer to retirement. I'm earlier in my career. I've been doing this 8 years. So I'm more of a growth mindset. She has a lot of past clients. She can kind of just, you know, work that circle of influence, and that's fine for her. So two different stages right now. And it wasn't that way really for forever. First couple of years was for me to just try and get my feet under me, figure out what I'm doing. Because like you said, there's regulations and all these different things you got to learn. I think it took about 3 years before I really felt really confident in what I was doing. Then there was a couple of years where things were smooth sailing, and then it's kind of flipped a little bit more. I would say over the last couple of years, uh, as I sit on I've sat on quite a few committees in the board of directors at our local realtor association, and I'm very proud to sit on all those. I find the networking with the other agents is really super valuable. The information is amazing, to have an idea of what's going on, with local government and policy that's going on that affects homeowners and taxes. It's really important for me to know what's going on with that, and fair housing. Um, I'm a big advocate for fair housing and affordable housing, and we have some serious issues in this world, in this United States, with that. That that's a whole nother show right there. But just all that education, and it's been interesting over the last couple of years, where now mom has contacted me to say, "Hey, what do you know about this? What do you know that's going on here? What's the association stance on this or that?" And so it's been kind of an interesting reversal in ways, kind of on education. I still look to her for guidance and stuff like that, but now when we ask each other a question, we usually try and have the answer in the back of our mind and just get what the other person's opinion is. And we're usually on the same boat. But so that's been an interesting journey for that. But the biggest challenge is probably just the technology piece, because she's good with technology, but it takes her a little bit longer to adapt to certain things. Where I would hit the ground running and I'd be like, "Mom, I got this. Oh, I just found this program. It's amazing. We need to implement this." And she'd be like, "Hold on, pump the brakes." um, she's like, "Give me my username and password and let me play around with this thing for like 3 weeks, and then I'll give you my opinion, and then see if it works for her." So that's one of the biggest challenges when you're working with family. For me, being different generations, is just kind of some of that technology and that different philosophy of what direction you're headed. So it's something to be careful of. They say working with family is not a good idea, and I would generally agree with that in most cases. I've gotten lucky though.
Well, it comes down to a lot of things, right? It comes down to personality, respect, communication, right?
Oh yeah.
You need to be able to work together, uh, to learn, to agree and disagree when needed, and to utilize everybody's skills. Like you mentioned, you're good with technology, but maybe with 20 or more years in the real estate, she knows plenty of tricks. And we call it tricks, but they are all being a professional, that
Oh,
she came
absolutely.
around a lot of different situations that you can gain from that as well. And that's with anything. Everybody brings something of value to a teen
Yeah.
relationship. And
I
it's
mean, after
recognizing those talents and utilizing them the proper way.
yeah, after
Yeah.
33 years now, 33, 34 years, whatever it is now, I think almost 34. She's seen a lot of change in the industry. I mean, I grew up around it, so we had the real estate books. They were that thick. They came out every 2 weeks, and all I had was a picture of a house and a short description, and that was it. And people would go to an office and actually flip through those. And when those were obsolete and the new version came out, she had to get rid of them. So as a kid, that was one of my jobs, is to go down to the burn barrel and light a fire and throw them all in there and burn them up. And they spent a lot more time on the road. You didn't have e-signatures. You didn't have, these click and fill forms online. I mean, it's so much easier today to be able to be faster at those things, and it saves a lot of time. So there's a lot of good and bad that you see over the years, but we have progressed forward as an industry pretty darn good, I would say.
Um, so what's one of the things that you would recommend somebody that maybe is transitioning from the military and is curious about real estate and want to either work or invest in real estate? What would you suggest to those people?
Well, I'll take the investment side first. If you're getting out, you've got your VA loan, and depending on your living situation, don't discredit the opportunity to buy a multifamily property. You can buy multifamily properties. You don't have to buy just that single standalone 1,000 square foot house. Go buy that duplex, or that 4 unit. Buy them, live in one. Even if you get a property management company that takes care of the other tenants, and you just pretend that you're not the owner, you could just make some pretty good income off of that. And especially if you get into 3 or 4 units, so you could make more than your mortgage payment by using your VA loan. It's kind of a no-brainer. Now, that's not ideal for everybody in everybody's situation, right? If you've got a family, may not be good. But hey, if you're younger, you're single, why not? Just assess if it might be a right thing for you. But use those benefits, and don't look away from that as an option. For somebody looking to get into the industry, though, you need to be prepared that it's expensive. Now, I can't recall what it cost for me to get the actual classes. I think it was two straight weeks of classes. I want to say it was a neighborhood of $1,000, which doesn't sound bad. But then you've got all the other things. If you get into business, you're gonna have to go buy signs. You got to buy equipment, computers, printers, all those office supplies. You're gonna have to get, depending on what brokerage you would go with. Then you got to figure out brokerage, right? I'm not gonna try and crack that nut, but there's a bunch of different companies you could possibly go with. You got to figure out which one's best. What do they supply you? What are you gonna have to go pay for yourself? You got licensing fees with the state. It's not a cheap business. It's not something that you can just take a nest egg of, say, $2,500 and just make it work. You need more than that. You might be able to get into the industry for $2,500 or so, roughly. It's going to vary across the country, but what you don't know is where that first sale comes from. And anybody that's in real estate, you can ask them when they got that first sale is going to vary extremely widely. I mean, I've met people that didn't get their first sale until a year in. I think mine was about 4 or 5 months in before I finally had my first closing. Some people, hit a home run right off the bat. And they get a client and get it under contract in like the first week. You never know. So, there's different paces at which you can start that are kind of out of your control. And you better be prepared to eat pretty lean for that first year. So, take all that into consideration. I don't mean to make it sound negative, but it's the reality of the situation. So if you're armed with that information and you're comfortable with it and you can write it out, then go for it. Absolutely. It's a very rewarding career.
I think it is. But like everything, it takes effort and dedication. You know, there's no instant success. That never happens.
Yeah,
That's
I'll
just a
tell
dream.
you, don't get into it if you just have a passion for homes, or you just like homes, you like the architecture of homes. Like, that's not the greatest maybe reason to get in. Get in because that's fine if you like homes. I mean, I like homes too, but get into it because you actually want to help people. Because, like you said earlier, Niurka, there's a lot of real estate professionals, but not all of them are professional. There's problems in our industry, and one day, hopefully, we can look up and not be. And this sounds bad to say it, but hopefully, one day we can wake up and not be lumped in the same category as car dealers and attorneys. They kind of get a bad reputation, and we kind of get thrown in there with them. And I don't know that it's fair for any of those, but that's where we are sometimes. Some people kind of just put us like that, but I look at us more like doctors. You break your leg, you don't just try and fix it yourself, right? Like, you should go to a professional that knows what they're doing. If you're going to have surgery, you shouldn't perform surgery on yourself. You're going to go to a doctor or surgeon, right? I mean, you're going to go to the professional. So try and seek those out and go that route.
Well, I know a lot of people try to do it themselves because they don't want to pay the commission. It sounds like it's too much. That is not, because I guarantee you that big commissions, there's a lot of people with their hands on that commission, and how much is left, and it doesn't account for all the hours and all the time that you have to put to sell or find a buyer for that property. Um, but on top of that, if you don't know what you're doing, how are you going to know? How are you going to figure out? And every state is different. Every county is different. Um, the taxes that you have to pay when you have a real estate transaction, the documents that you have to file, the just because you get a title, but you don't insure that title, somebody might come later, and now you just lose all your money, and because you didn't took the right precautions, you don't hire the right home inspection, home inspector to inspect your home, and it might sound like a lot of money. That's $650 or more, but how you know what they're giving you is true? Like, we found a lot of defects after we purchased the home. Nobody gave us our money back.
Yeah, no, you don't get
Um,
your money back. And a lot of those home inspectors will have, as they'll have something drafted in their agreement that says that, because they can't look behind walls. They can't find everything, but they can look for as much as they can. But there's a possibility you find something. And I've had things come up for clients, a week later, a couple months later, like
and that is
serious issues, but they have them in their contracts that, sorry, we can't find everything. And I think most of them are worded where they'll give back the inspection fee, and that's about it. So that's at most
and
all you're probably going to get from any home inspector.
and getting, and that's like everything, you have to vet those professionals as well. And you're saying that, okay, well, I'm not going to deal with an old home, I'm just going to go buy a brand new home. Guess what? Those has issues as well. Developers will hide stuff if you don't have a home inspectors, because it's money in the bank.
Yep.
So make sure that whoever's thinking about purchasing a home, they do the due diligence. And part of that due diligence is hiring the right professionals.
Yeah, one thing people should keep
You
in
know,
mind, and I don't think a lot of
and
consumers
where
know.
can they find you?
Yeah, a lot of consumers I don't think realize that when they go get a loan, they got to get the appraisal, right? Well, on that appraisal, the appraiser is going to mark the quality of construction. That's there's a Q code and the C code. The C code is the condition, but the Q code is the quality, the overall quality of the construction. All the way, I think it's 1 to 5 or something like that, if I remember right. But that should tell you enough that they rank the quality of construction in 4 or 5 different categories. There is a huge difference in quality of construction. You're probably going to get a better quality of construction from a custom home builder rather than somebody who's throwing up subdivision after subdivision. It doesn't mean that you're going to get a bad home, but the overall quality could be better. But, to your point, new homes, they settle. They haven't settled yet. So as they settle, you're going to get the nail pops. You're going to get the cracks, and those little things are going to have to be fixed. That's why new home builders offer that 1 year of protection, again, where they'll come and fix those things, or should come and fix those things. So you get a little something different with every age of home.
Yes. Everything has its issues, and it's navigating that. You have to find the right professionals, like the lawyers. Not all goods. Not all lawyers are good. But there's some really good ones. The same with the realtors. So whoever's listening and is looking to purchase a home or maybe listen to a podcast, where can they find you?
You can find me on my website, mhghomes.com. It stands for McKeever Harmon Group. And so you can find us there, or you can actually search MHG Homes on, any of our social media platforms, Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Pretty much all of those we've got an account on. So you can find us there. You can email me, Keith at mhghomes.com, or like I said, find us on the social and send us a message. We'll get it one way or another.
What area are you serving?
So I'm in the Peoria, Illinois area. So kind of serve, I call the greater Peoria area, as it's commonly referred to. So Peoria, Tazewell, Woodford County. It's, kind of right about smack dab between Chicago and St. Louis. And, I would consider the area actually a hidden gem. I'll give a little plug for it. We've been constantly rated one of the more affordable, housing areas in the nation. Some ups and downs, but we got a downtown district that's got a bunch of old warehouses. It used to be called the Whiskey City here. So a lot of whiskey producers and stuff like that. So a lot of those old buildings are still downtown, and they're being renovated into some awesome condos and apartments and restaurants, mixed use stuff. So there's a lot of cool stuff going on. Minor league baseball, minor league hockey, or whatever the Rivermen are. I'm not a hockey fan. But we got that and a lot of entertainment stuff. And then being, halfway between St. Louis and Chicago is pretty neat for us too. So, and about 4 hours from Indianapolis. So, you can take a nice little weekend road trip and make it to some other cities, and we've got a lot here to offer. So now we don't have Miami. I mean, we don't have palm trees. I will say that though. You got me on that one, Niurka.
That's good to know. A little bit about your podcast, what it's about.
So my podcast is the Battle Buddy Podcast, and you can find that at battlebuddypodcast.net. It's also on Spotify, Anchor, Apple Music, just about all those major podcasting places. So I got that idea about a year ago. I was, being a vet, Air Force vet, I was in a lot of Facebook groups, and I was seeing a lot of people with basically the same problems over and over again. And I realized a lot of them were either substance abuse or suicidal thoughts, divorce and financial things, but it all kind of seemed to be, 4 or 5 different categories there. And I listen to podcasts, I really love them. So I decided, why not create a podcast myself? And, it's one thing I can do to try and give back, and maybe somebody can hear me talking or a guest talking about something and it resonates with them and it can help them. So I, often say if it keeps a needle out of an arm, a gun out of a mouth, or put somebody on a path to bettering themselves or bettering their financial situation, then it's a win for everybody. So, just hope at some point in time that actually happens for somebody. I'll probably never know about it, but at least I feel good, having people on there. So to talk about those things, we've talked about a variety of those things, from credit to suicide attempts to leadership during, difficult times. And, I had you on there, just released your episode this week. So, talking about entrepreneurship. And so there's a variety of different topics because, as vets, we go through a lot of different things. So maybe something hits that person at the right time and puts them on the right path. And that's kind of the goal. Give them some actionable steps to do something.
That's awesome. And where can they find it?
Like I
Where
said,
they,
battlebuddypodcast.net. That's the website. From there you can find the links out. So I'm on YouTube as well. It's video goes up there. Spotify and Anchor and Apple Music would probably, and Google Music or Google Podcasts would be the best places to find it. But the website, it's also good on the website. I got the video and the audio files on there, and I've got a bunch of resources on there too that I'm trying to fill that out slowly but surely with more resources all the way from companies, giving shout outs to veteran owned businesses or companies that offer discounts, VA information, VA loan information, financial information, credit information, so people can, maybe find some nuggets of information helpful on their journey to fix credit, whatever the case may be. So it's a work in progress there.
that's awesome. So, what are two resources or two books that you would recommend to somebody that's thinking about starting their own business, the transition for the military, and they're still thinking about the next step?
Resources or books?
Yes.
That's a good one. One resource I'm going to say is if you're getting out and you want to try and get into business and be an entrepreneur, you need to go check out the Vetpreneur Tribe on Facebook. That's a great place to be. There's about 15,000 people in there that are, somewhere on that journey of entrepreneurship, whether they're deep in it or they're exploring it. It's a good place to go and get information and see who's doing what and what their struggles are. And the advice that's flowing freely back and forth is amazing. So that'd be a good place to go for there. Books, that's definitely an interesting one because I'm not a huge reader, but I am trying to make my way through The Humble Alpha from Stephen Kuhn and Lane Balone. So that would be a really good one to read, just to get yourself in the right mindset, because mindset going forward when you get out is key. It is absolutely key. You got to plan, you got to do all that stuff, but you got to have the right mindset, because if you don't have the right mindset, you're not going to be on that right path. You're not going to get yourself in that right direction. So that'd be a couple of resources I'd suggest.
Well, thank you for sharing those, and definitely was great for you to be a guest, and you're always welcome anytime
Well,
you
thank
want
you.
to come back and share your success with us. Um, so, yeah.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate it, Niurka. And you sit there and enjoy those palm trees today.
Okay. All right.